Welcome to Satsang. Tosh, could you read me the subject that you'd like me to talk about this morning?
Yes, the subject this morning is going beyond the mind.
Okay. I think that was probably the problem I had. I don't tend to live in my mind. I tend to live just here in beingness. And as a result, I don't retain that much. To go beyond the mind, as far as I can tell, is two ways. One is meditation, where you find no mind. In other words, the mind's not talking to itself. You're just present to reality out here. And the mind's just quiet. It's just not talking. And I used to find no mind in meditation. And in a way, that was one of my goals, to find that beautiful space of being conscious without thought. The other way to go beyond the mind is to wake up, because what we are is not the mind. What we are is beingness. And beingness can be perceived by the mind, but the mind quite often claims to be you. But it's not you. You are not the body, you are not the mind. You are beingness. You always have been beingness. You can't be anything other than beingness. But most people are identified with being the body and the mind, and that is the cause of suffering. To know yourself as truth, to know yourself as beingness, is going beyond the mind, or beyond psychology, if you like. And that is a very different way of living than living ego-based reality. And so ego-based reality is living basically thinking you're a somebody that's been somewhere, that's going somewhere, that things have happened to. And of course, that's a survival mechanism. So it's ruled by fear to a large degree. And being-based reality is you are everything or nothing. It's very hard to describe, but there is no fear, and there is no being born, there is no dying, because beingness was never born and never dies. So beingness-based reality is not a security-based reality, whereas ego-based reality is. And ego-based reality, because it's security-based, it has an editor that edits what comes out of your mouth, that edits everything, because you want to be safe. When you start living or existing as beingness, knowing yourself as beingness, there is no editor, because there's no security anymore, there's no fear anymore. So the editor disappears completely. So everything that comes out of your mouth is unfiltered, which can get you into a lot of trouble. But that's how it is. And so the difference between living ego-based reality and being-based reality is absolutely huge. There's a quantum difference. One being coming out of survival mechanism, and the other one coming from absolutely untouchable by anything, because beingness can't be touched. Beingness can't be in any way damaged. So making the transition from ego-based reality to being-based reality is difficult, actually. But that's beyond the mind. And the whole point of going for higher consciousness is to learn to go beyond the mind, to find yourself as truth and know self as that, instead of knowing yourself as an I that has been somewhere that's going somewhere. Knowing yourself is basically a problem solver. And so when you go beyond the mind, you're very much in the moment, because dream's not of interest to you at all. With ego-based reality, it's very much all about dream. It's about being safe. So there's this projection forward that you are safe constantly. And it's not actually true, because nothing is actually safe. Everything's at risk all the time. But we can't, as egos, it's very difficult to rest knowing everything's at risk all the time. So we project forward that it's safe. We project that when we go to the shops, we're coming home. We project when our kids are going to school, they're going to come home. We project all these different things that are actually not true, but they seem true. And we think they're true. And so there's a certain security in that. And at the moment, because of the coronavirus and the constant publicity on the news, and on social media, there's an environmental fear that's there. It's in our society. It's almost like our society is under siege and we're waiting for the enemy to breach the gates. And so everyone's kind of like in survival mode to some degree because of the fear level that is actually right through it, around the world. And as a result of this fear level, people are actually eating more because they're comforting themselves. They're turning themselves into doaholics so they can avoid this discomfort of not knowing the future, the insecurity of it all. And this is all inside the mind. And I'm watching it, and I'm watching how people who are normally relaxed, or let's say before coronavirus are now on edge. And it's like the whole of society is on edge to some degree because of fear. And it's making people more severe, less connected with others, because when we go into fear mode, we go into survival mode, we go into severity, there's a sense of separation. There's not a sense of us anymore. There's a sense of me and my survival and my family's survival. So this is prevalent in the world right now, right around the world. I've been noticing it particularly in my own people here. The fear levels are very high, and people are on guard because of the fear levels, and it makes them a little bit unapproachable because when we've got a lot of fear happening, well, even if we have a little bit of fear happening, there's a certain closure. And so when you're trying to meet people who are closed, it's difficult because their own defense systems are keeping you at bay. And really, it is because our projections have dropped. We're actually seeing reality. We're seeing that we're seeing danger. And our projections of safety have dropped. But the truth is, we are never safe. Ever, ever, ever. Every moment we could die. Every moment we could have an embolism in the brain or a heart attack, or we could get hit by a car if we're out driving. Look, anything could happen, but we believe we're safe because we have a projection that we're going to come back home. It's not true, though. That's actually a delusion. We are not safe. And if you can make it okay to not be safe, you can relax. But as long as you can't make it okay to be not safe, you can't relax. You're in a state of unrest, a state of tension. And it doesn't need to be so. You've just got to learn to surrender to what is. It's okay to be insecure. It's actually okay. But you're the only one that can make it so. Nobody can do it for you. Any questions? Any statements? Any challenges to this teaching today?
The first question is as follows. What's beyond the mind, and how do I start to get out of the mind?
Well, what's beyond the mind is who we really are. Beingness, or everythingness. You see, it's very, very difficult to describe what's beyond the mind. The mind is a closed circuit. It's like everything inside the mind is imagined, but people don't believe that to be true. They think that somehow what's in the mind is real, but nothing you think is real. What's outside the mind is reality. Beingness is real. It's not imagined, it's real. And it's possible for us to know ourselves as that. That's enlightenment. Not held in memory, but in the moment, the direct knowing of self as beingness. That's enlightenment. And how you get out of it is you decide. That's a really, really good question. First of all, you have to realize that you're trapped in the mind. First of all, you have to realize that you're a prisoner, and that the prison is a matrix of ideas, belief systems that aren't real, but they're governed by fear. And you recognize, oh, that's what I've been living as. And then you realize, well, I'd like to get out of that. And here comes the seeker. The seeker says, I want freedom. I want to go beyond the mind. I want to be free of this tyrannical program that keeps me prisoner. And so the seeker starts looking at spirituality, looking at different ways to get out of the mind through meditation, self-inquiry, different teachers who are teaching ways out. And the seeker starts practicing different ways to go beyond the mind. The first way that's usually taught is meditation, abandoning the mind for what is real. More advanced methodologies are self-inquiry, where people are actually inquiring into beingness itself, awareness itself, and to go beyond the mind, because there's this thirst for freedom, because there's an understanding that we're imprisoned. Though not many people on the planet really understand that they're imprisoned, so they don't search. The seeker is someone who wants freedom, who's seen the prison. And if the thirst is strong enough, the person will do whatever it takes to get free. But the thirst has to be strong. So most spiritual teachers who are awake well, they're holding a presence to start with, but they're actually pointing to the truth of our true nature, and they're encouraging people or trying to get people involved in being more thirsty for truth, because it's only that thirst for truth, that thirst for freedom, that allows people to really get free. And so we hold these satsangs online, Zooms, in an endeavor to encourage people to become more thirsty for truth, to have them examine their mind and see that they actually are imprisoned, and there is a way out. There is a way to go beyond the mind and know yourself as reality, rather than knowing yourself as something you're not, which is the I. It's not who you are.
How do I become more thirsty for truth?
Hang out with a teacher who keeps reminding you that you are not an ego. One of my teachers used to say, you just haven't suffered enough yet. I don't know if that's true or not, but suffering definitely motivates you to want to get free. My motivation wasn't actually suffering. It was curiosity. It's like I'd been an entrepreneur and I'd been successful in business, and I got to the top of that mountain and there was just nothing there. It was just, it was a con. You know, you think you get to the top of the mountain, there's something there, but there's nothing there. And so this new mountain was offered to me, the mountain of higher consciousness, the idea of enlightenment. It's just a much harder mountain to climb, because with the mountain of success in business, it's just resistance, basically. You stand alone in resistance. With the mountain of higher consciousness towards enlightenment, you have to learn to stand alone in surrender, which means vulnerability, openness, no defenses. It's a totally different game. But one ingredient for success in business and for success in higher consciousness that's the same is totality. And the thirst encourages the totality that's actually required to play the game of higher consciousness, to go beyond the mind.
How do I just simply witness and not be judgmental?
Practice. There isn't an answer to that except practice. You're wanting an intellectual understanding on how to do it. Won't help. All you can do is practice. You practice in meditation, just watching your mind, being a witness of it. And not getting caught in it, not judging it, not trying to analyze it, because that's what we tend to do. But that's not witnessing. That's being lost in the dream. Now the dream's an analyzing dream. The witness just watches, just witnesses, like you're watching someone else's mind. And that only occurs through practice. It doesn't occur any other way, because we are so used to being involved in the mind. We're so used to getting involved in the drama, the psychology of the mind. To actually be a witness to the mind takes practice, and I would say a fair bit of practice, to just watch the mind without judging, without analyzing, without getting caught in any way in it, just being the witness. And once that's developed, you have detachment from the mind. And so you don't get you can stop reactions, because you have that little bit of space before the trigger and then the reaction. You have that little bit of space so you don't go to reaction. That's the only way I know. I don't know another way to develop the witness except to practice.
How can I give up the thought of what I want and just be?
It sounds like you have another desire to just, you want to be. That's another desire. So oh, it's so funny, really, when you look at it. It's just swapping one desire for another desire, and that doesn't work. Go beyond the mind. Go beyond the mind, and then you can just be. But desires don't take you beyond the mind. They actually take you into the mind. They take you further and further into the mind. It's because a desire is of the mind, and beingness is way beyond the mind. It's sort of the question: how to give up all thoughts of what I want and just be. Well, the desire to just be is just another thought, isn't it? That has to be given up too. Meditation can take you to no mind. Self-inquiry can take you beyond the mind. But once again, these are practices that need to be practiced. That doesn't happen because you think it's a great idea. It happens because you practice.
The next question is as follows. Would you say that some desires are more noble than others, like desiring peace, love, and freedom?
The desire, well, they're kind of like, they're ideas, aren't they? They're just ideas. They're not really noble. They're just ideas. A noble thought would be, let's go and help someone. In other words, let's do something for someone else. That would be a noble thought. Let's take care of someone who's suffering. That's noble. Having a thought, oh, wouldn't it be nice to have world peace? Well, really, that's kind of like rubbish. Where does it get? What does it do? It's just another dream, isn't it? How about going out and actually physically helping someone, doing something for someone else? There's nobility, because that's the way of the heart. Having nice thoughts is like, well, just having a nice dream. It doesn't mean anything. Get into the world and help people. Get into the world and serve. This is the way of the heart. This is the beauty way.
Next, we have Alan, who would like to ask a question.
Alan.
Hey, Vishrant.
Hello, Alan.
This topic. So I'm just wondering. We believe that we're somebody in the mind, and that somebody in reality doesn't actually exist. And is it the belief in that somebody that is the reason for our fear?
Yes and no. You see, you can't actually drop that belief because it seems true to you, because you're not knowing yourself as anything other than that. And so all your physiological reactions to pain and discomfort make you feel more and more that you are somebody that has a body. It is not until that is aware of the mind becomes aware of itself that you realize you are not the body. You could never have been the body, but not until then. You can't intellectually really get to an understanding that is satisfying that you are not the body simply by thinking or contemplating. It is only through the direct knowing of self as truth that you recognize it's not possible that I'm the body, just not possible.
Mm, mm. So I've had several satoris where it seems ironic that I say this. It's obvious that I'm not who I have believed myself to be up till that point. But then there's some lack of awareness or understanding that allows the personality to seem to form again. And is it the patterns that we are programmed with that cause that personality to form again?
No, it's actually just natural, Alan. It's I had my first really major satori in 1987, and I knew myself as beingness, and I've known myself as beingness since then. But for 11 years after that, I only knew it in memory. I didn't know it as a direct experience in the moment. But what had occurred for me was so powerful. All I saw the body as was a spacesuit with an onboard computer that had absolutely nothing to do with who I was. That was a bit crazy. But it didn't help that much to know that, except it gave me the thirst to go for truth. I don't think you can disassociate from being a body and a mind while you're living as an ego. I don't think it's possible. I think that would be, you're deluding yourself.
Mm.
You know, because basically, if you're ego-based, the ego thinks it's real.
Yeah.
And it's not until you know yourself as truth that the mind recognizes that it's not real, that it's absolutely false, that what is actually real is beingness, and it's here now. And not in memory, but actually in the direct awareness of awareness in that moment. So enlightenment is awareness of awareness in the moment, every moment.
Yeah. I get what you're saying, because my experience of it is memory.
Yeah.
So I'm not even going to ask the question how to get enlightenment in the moment, because I know what you'll say.
I'm going to answer the question for you, Alan.
Oh, well, I'm fully listening.
So from 1987, it was the end of 87, it was in December that I had that major satori and knew myself as truth. And then I lost it. Well, awareness went back to basically the mind and the ego. And it wasn't until 98, which was 11 years later, when a Satsang teacher walked in a room that I was sitting in, that I came back to beingness, knowing awareness went back to itself. And so it was in the presence of someone that was awake that facilitated awakening again. And then for the next year, there was 1,000 satoris. And I visited a lot of awake teachers during that period of time as well, until one day it was like a magnet locked onto itself. Awareness locked onto itself and hasn't been off itself ever since. It's like two very powerful magnets locked on. So awareness is locked on itself. And right now awareness is locked on itself, and awareness is out here with you as well. But it's in both places. But that happened 11 years after my first major satori. But during that period, I practiced openness, I practiced meditation, I practiced self-inquiry.
Yeah. So this person thinking about memories of satoris and so forth, it's just nearly like a merry-go-round. You just could go around and go around and go around thinking about these type of things. It's not until that awareness actually becomes aware of itself that things start to shift.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much. What you can do, though, is prepare the mind for that to happen. Sometimes it's like preparing the mind for the ultimate accident, because truthfully, you can't enlighten yourself. It's by grace. You can prepare the ground for that accident to occur, but you can't actually facilitate it, really. So what happened is the ground was prepared here for the ultimate accident to occur.
Yeah.
But while that ground was being prepared, consciousness levels in the mind were rising to a level where there wasn't a contracting to life anymore. There was no resistance to life anymore. So life was quite peaceful. And in a lot of ways, there wasn't any suffering, even though it was ego-based, because the mind wasn't resisting life. And that's the result of higher consciousness, where you get to not react to life, you respond to it.
That happens quite a bit. Like, even for instance, last night I had a heated discussion with my wife, which pretty much every time up until now would have ended up in some type of contraction or argument, but there was an openness that was around it, which was probably one of the only times that I'd be able to have that type of discussion with her and not get, well, I use the word triggered, but not get drawn into some defensive pattern. So I class that as a victory in the real world.
Yeah, that's true, because if you had have contracted, it wouldn't have been your wife that defeated you, it would have been you that defeated you. Because you supplied the contraction. She was just supplying the world. She was just being
yeah. Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you.
Nice to talk to you. Alan, have you got a green shirt on?
I actually have no shirt on.
I can't see you. I think through the screen, through the Zoom, the colours get mixed up, because I know that yesterday you were telling me you had a yellow shirt on, and I could see you in the meeting, and it looked bright green.
The lights here in the bedroom, they're them in my mother-in-law's house. They're them LED lights, and they're really, really bright. So it might distort the colours of what I'm wearing. But at the moment, I'm sitting here shirtless. It's nearly 9 o'clock in the morning and about 30 degrees. So
40 degrees?
No, 30 degrees.
30.
Yeah, so pretty warm. So I don't have to present myself because the camera's not on me. So yep, bare chested.
Great to hear, Alan. I'll talk to you again.
Take care. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
The next question is from Satya.
Hello, Vishrant.
Happy birthday, Satya.
Thank you, Vishrant, for your love. Vishrant, my question is how we can convert our mind into do more and more practice.
Okay, so you have to be interested to do more and more practice. It has to become an interest of yours. For me, it became a fascination. So I was just interested in really going beyond the mind. So I'd self-inquire and I'd meditate, because I was just very interested in going beyond. I had lived in my mind for a lot of years and realized that it's not a good place to live. I wanted to go beyond. I wanted a different adventure. And the ultimate adventure is the adventure beyond the mind, to know yourself as truth. And that begins in a lot of ways with an inward adventure. And the inward adventure is discovering how your mind works and allaying all those things that create contraction and resistance in you. And that's the inward adventure. But the ultimate adventure is knowing yourself as truth. But you've got to be thirsty for it. You've got to want it. And that's up to you.
Okay, thank you, Vishrant.
How old are you today, Satya?
40 years.
40 years old. Wow. You've made it.
Till I'm alive. It's the grace of God or whatever.
always by grace, mate. It's always by grace. I hope you have a lovely day.
Thank you, Vishrant.
The next question is as follows. How can I get out of my family patterns of survival and be free?
Well, you call them family patterns of survival. I mean, they're just human patterns of survival. The human being is actually an animal. It's just an intelligent animal. And because it's intelligent, it can go beyond survival. But it is equipped with a set of patterns for survival. So the body survives, so the species survives. And those patterns are extremely strong. They've been around for millions of years. It's not like however old you are, say you're 30 or 40 like Satya, you're not 40 years old, you're a million years old as far as the body's concerned. It's programmed to survive. It's programmed to succeed in this world, to survive. The only way to go beyond that is to surrender. And that goes against the survival mechanism. So it goes against programming. So it's not likely that it's going to be easy for that to occur. It's more likely that you're going to fail, and you're going to fail a lot. And that's how we learn. It's how we learn how to walk. We failed a lot. We fell over, and then we got up, and then we fell over, and then we got up, and then we fell over, and then we got up. And that's how we learn to go beyond the survival mechanism. We start accepting life instead of resisting it. Acceptance actually teaches us to surrender. Acceptance is an action. Surrender is a non-action. But acceptance of life as it is teaches us surrender. And that's how we learn to go beyond the survival mechanism of the mind. We practice acceptance. That's difficult because quite often we like to be right. And of course, righteousness and arrogance are against acceptance. And they're also against higher consciousness. They're part of survival, actually. So you've got to give up righteousness and give up arrogance and accept life if you want to go beyond the mind. Up to you. You're the one that's creating your reality with the way you think. So it's totally up to you.
I know that the truth is non-dual. What is required to change from a dualistic focus and live more freely?
Well, from the question, I would say that you know that the truth is non-dual, maybe from direct experience or from an understanding that you've been given by teachers, but that doesn't help you very much at all, because really to know that life is non-dual every moment, you actually have to be awake, you have to be enlightened. Holding it in memory doesn't help much. Because the ego sees itself as separate from everything. There's duality straight up. Because the ego is a dream. It's not even real, but it sees itself as separate from everything. It says, me, you, this is ego. It's like, it's not true, but it absolutely seems true. It seems like it's real. And as long as you don't have awareness on awareness, that's always going to be seen to be true. When awareness locks onto itself, you know yourself as everything or nothing, or both. Very confusing sometimes. But you're definitely not a body. You're definitely not a mind. You're definitely not a somebody. And so to truly know that you're not a somebody that's going somewhere, that's been somewhere, you need to wake up. You need to be enlightened. And yeah, you're right. Everything is non-dual. Everything is one. It's true. But as an idea, that doesn't help. As a direct knowing in the moment, well, that's the truth. That's the truth. But if that's not your experience, if that's not what's happening, then you need to find a way to wake up. You need to become enlightened, because holding it in memory isn't going to help you. It'll probably just make you dissatisfied with life. Find a way to wake up. My best advice to anyone is find a teacher who actually tells the truth and hang out with them.
Next, we have Emma who'd like to ask a question.
Hello, Emma. You have to unmute, yes.
How are you?
I'm lovely, thanks, Emma. And yourself?
Yeah, good. I've been noticing I spend most of my days trying to practice kind of looking back into my awareness as I, like retraining posture or something like that. Anytime I notice I'm not focused there. What I'm finding is as I go about my day, audio stimulation of the outside world becomes very intense and almost like a whoa. I'm wondering why that is. It kind of like shocks me. Yeah, I'm not really clear on my question. Hold on. When we are holding ourselves in awareness, why does the outside world seem so intense? Or is that how it always is?
Okay, I do have an answer for you, Emma. See, you're not used to holding yourself inside, and so the outside world shocks you because you've become very, very sensitive. To actually enter the inner world, for awareness to be aware of itself, the person's mind has to be in other words, totally receptive, totally relaxed. The moment the mind becomes totally receptive, totally relaxed, it's very easily affected by the outside world because it becomes, and so you've become very, very sensitive, and you're being distracted by what happens outside, by sounds, because you're trying to go in. And so this is why people tend to, at least in the early stages, have sanctuary where they don't get disturbed by the outside world. Sanctuary in your own home, sanctuary in your room, sanctuary somewhere where you're not going to get a telephone or someone walking in, where you can actually do self-inquiry and have that open, sensitive, vulnerable space not activated by noise or someone else's presence.
I feel like I have a bit of a compulsion for adversity. And I think that might be a little bit of a almost like a problem solving thing in me, but it seems to be serving to some degree now.
What do you mean by adversity? Do you mean trouble?
Like if I feel something kind of rise in me, like I actively go towards it, like the challenge of myself.
Can you give me an example of that? Because it's a little unclear for me.
Like I would rather climb a mountain barefoot because I feel like the mental kind of game I have to play to kind of overcome the physical pain. There's a part of me that always chooses that route rather than.
I understand what you're saying now. Yeah, well, like when we go to yang, because what you're talking about is yang, right? Out in the world being forceful, there's a certain defense system in it that makes us feel very comfortable. There's no when we take away our defenses, when we go to yin, there's no, we're actually vulnerable to everything, particularly emotional stuff. So people avoid yin and prefer to go yang. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
And the truth, in consciousness, we actually have to learn to be vulnerable because we have to learn to be yin. You can't go yang because awareness gets attracted to yang away from itself. So even if you find beingness, awareness aware of itself, there's an attraction back to the mind if the mind is going yang. And so what's required is a mind that can stay yin or equanimous.
Yeah. Thank you.
Look, this is a problem for everyone, darling. This isn't just your problem.
Yeah.
There's a safety in yang. There's no safety in yin, none whatsoever.
I trick myself to believing that I'm open. I have this like, I'll conquer the world.
Well, that's a yang statement.
I know.
And I like using the yin yang understanding, because really someone who's gone beyond the mind is absolutely vulnerable. Otherwise, they would never have gone beyond the mind.
Mm.
Mind would never have supported what was found. And so all sages who are awake are basically embraced the feminine aspect. And so in some religions, they say that the sage is always a woman, whether they're male or female, because they've embraced femininity, the receptivity and the vulnerability.
Yeah, yeah.
But you look at us, I don't know where you are, but in Australia, men and women are all yang.
Very much so. Very
Yeah.
much so.
Very much so. Femininity is unusual because it demands vulnerability, and no one wants to be vulnerable because it's you get hurt.
Yeah.
Yet in the rise of consciousness, we have to learn to be vulnerable, and learn to be vulnerable in the marketplace if we're lay people.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. It is probably the hardest thing to do. It's probably easier to climb that mountain with bare foot.
I was talking to my sister, and I was saying it's kind of like balancing on a ball and like juggling and trying to play one-man band at the same time. Like, all requires so much concentration.
You know, all it requires is your unconditional surrender.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the truth.
Mm.
You see, a mind that is surrendered, or a mind that is in acceptance, will support enlightenment.
Peeling back.
It really is. Satsang, which is what we're in right now, is an undoing process. It's not a doing up. Personal growth is a doing up process, but Satsang, the rise to higher consciousness, is a stripping down process. It's a taking everything away process.
Mm.
So sometimes it's seen as a destructive process, because it is. It's just taking away all the things that are in the way, all the obstacles that are in the way towards higher consciousness and ultimately enlightenment.
I've been, I went away for my birthday, and I hadn't seen these people for quite some time, and I feel like I've changed quite a lot. And almost immediately I saw myself going to play these roles with these particular people, and they were different people, different versions of myself that I was meeting them with based on who the person was. And I was just...
But you're conscious enough to see that. That's cool.
Yeah, it blows me away.
Yeah, no, but your consciousness has risen enough to see the difference. Most people's consciousness never changes. They stay the same their whole lives.
Just returning home.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Nice to talk to you, Emma.
Likewise, as always. Thank you for your time.
The next question is from Satya.
Hello, Vishrant.
Yes.
Vishrant, when beingness is everything, is not touchable, then why we are in the process of life and birth?
That's samsara. That's of the body and the mind. It's just that we're not the body or the mind. Samsara happens to the body and mind, and it keeps coming back because of unfinished business. Keeps getting reborn because of unfinished business, and there can be an end to that. Then that's samsara. But the only way you can end samsara is to wake up to your true nature. Come on, you're Indian, you know this. Here I am a Westerner telling you what your country's known for 10,000 years.
It's just a knowledge, Vishrant. There is no point of this knowledge, I must have to be in a practice.
No, there is a point in it, because at least if you have the understanding that samsara is real, that we get born over and over again into a life of basically dissatisfaction, you get motivated to get out of that prison. Whereas if you don't have that understanding, where's the motivation to even go for higher consciousness or truth or freedom?
No, that's true, Vishrant. But when beingness is not touchable, then why we came into samsara? What is the reason? What is the point on behind this?
Good question. I don't know. Look, I've studied a lot of different teachings and a lot of different teachers, but in my own direct experience, I don't know. I don't know. I don't have an answer. I know what they've said, but I don't take on beliefs ever. And so if it's not my own direct experience, I got to say to you, I don't know.
Okay.
I'd love to know, but I don't. And I'm okay with not knowing. You know, the search for knowledge, or the seeking of knowledge, is really basically the search for survival. It's defensive. And I gave up defensiveness 21 years ago. I surrendered. And so I'm okay with not knowing.
Okay, Vishrant. Thank you.
Okay, Sasha.
The next question is as follows. If we are just living where our awareness is at, how do you switch your attention off the mind and more on beingness and the space?
Okay, self-inquiry is the answer. But we do live where our awareness is at. So while we're ego-based, if we have our awareness on our mind and our mind is angry, we live as anger. If we are sad and our awareness is on that, we live as sadness. If we're joyful, well, awareness is on that, we live as joyfulness. And so we live wherever our awareness is at. Shifting awareness away from the mind and onto itself can be achieved through self-inquiry, asking the question, who am I? Or who's aware? Or better still, what's aware? And so a thought arises and the question arises, what's aware? The question is not to be answered. It is just to be put. What's aware? And there is an attempt for awareness to turn back to itself. Now, one of the problems with awareness turning back to itself, usually initially in self-inquiry, is not much is found. A certain silence, a certain stillness, a certain emptiness may be discovered. But quite often that's missed because the mind is actually looking for something else. The mind looks for a big experience or something that moves or something that makes noise, because that's what it's programmed to do through survival. But what we truly are, does not move and does not make noise, and it is silent and it is still. And so we have to get used to the idea when self-inquiring that we're not looking for something that moves, something that makes noise, something that's big. And so in self-inquiry, you may ask the question, who's aware? And awareness does turn to itself and you sense a certain expandedness, a certain emptiness, a certain spaciousness, a certain silence, a certain stillness. And it might be very subtle, but you're headed in the right direction, because these are the symptoms of beingness. And so you keep self-inquiring. You keep asking the question, who's aware? And I can tell you when to stop, when there's no one left to ask.
I think you've just answered the next question, but I'll read it. I've heard teachers say to stop the search. What do they mean?
Look, if you've been a seeker and you've done all the work, you've meditated, you've self-inquired, you've undone the mind, you've done all the work on the mind to prepare it for enlightenment, stop the search. Just self-inquire. Who am I? But if you haven't done the work, that particular teaching is a faulty teaching. People who are woken up have done the work, either this lifetime or previous lifetimes. They've prepared the mind for what's been found. If you call off the search too early, you don't find anything. I never tell people to call off the search. I think it was Papaji who said that. I think it's a wrong conclusion. You keep searching until you find it. You find truth as self. You keep looking. You don't stop until you find it. I think that's what works.
The next question, how can we break the addiction to negative thinking?
It seems like an addiction, but really it's just a pattern, a default pattern. People who think negatively have developed a habit over a lifetime of negative thinking. That's all. That's all that's happened. And the only way I know how to change that is to, first of all, catch yourself being negative and stop it. And if you do that often enough, the negative thinking will slowly go away. But we're talking about changing a lifelong default pattern. So we're talking about a couple of years of discipline to change it. It won't change because you think it's a great idea. It changes because you're introducing a new pattern of not entertaining it. You feel yourself being negative, you stop it. No negotiation, you just stop it. That works, but unfortunately that takes a fair bit of effort over a fair bit of time, and most people don't want to put the effort in. I do not know any other way that will change negative thinking except to bring in this new pattern of catching it, stopping it. But that's pretty much how you change any pattern in your mind. It's the same. You catch it, you stop it.
How do I be okay with the sense of the unknown?
You have to be okay with fear. When the unknown presents itself, the natural thing to occur for a human being is for fear to arise, to protect you so you can survive, because the unknown is dangerous. And so the mind throws up fear, our primary program for defense, for survival. If you can be okay with death, if you can be okay with letting go of control, it's not going to bother you. But you've got to let go. You've got to be okay with whatever you're frightened of. You've got to let go. And the unknown has all of those possibilities of being out of control, because we can't control the unknown. You'll be okay with letting go of control. You'll be okay with death. You'll be okay. Let go, let go, let go.
I've heard you saying that you trust inner knowing. Is trusting our feelings the same as trusting the inner knowing?
Not at all, no. Our feelings seem to come from the mind. Where inner knowing comes from, I have not got a clue. People think sometimes that inner knowing talks to you, we uses words, but my understanding is very different. Inner knowing just knows which way to go. It doesn't use words. It doesn't use thoughts. It just knows which way to go. So you come to a crossroad, and this very, very quiet thing inside of you, which has nothing to do with your noisy mind, knows which way to go, and you follow it. The mind might be using rationale, and it says, no, we should go the other way because of this, this, and this, all the logic. But the inner knowing doesn't introduce logic. It just knows which way to go. And it's a very subtle and a very quiet knowing. And so quite often people aren't in touch with their inner knowing, because what they're in touch with is the rational mind that says, yes, you should go this way because of this, this, and this, and this. Those that follow the inner knowing are not listening to the rational mind. They're listening to that quiet, quiet knowing inside of themselves. These people are mystics. They're sages. They're shaman. They follow the inner knowing. They trust something that doesn't use logic. And there's a certain beauty in that.
What are the signs of someone who is enlightened?
No signs. Presence, that's it. The only way that you can tell if someone is enlightened or not is through presence, because anybody can learn the words. Anybody can learn the motions, the mannerisms, dress, talk, walk like they're awake. Anybody can do that. The only way that you can tell if somebody is awake or not awake is by their presence. Someone who's awake has a Buddha field around them, and that Buddha field is there 24/7. And so if you're looking for someone who's awake, check out the Buddha field. Check out the presence. Does it start to expand your mind? Does it start to quieten you? Is it beautiful to be in? And then check and see if it's there all the time. Because people who are relatively advanced can self-inquire and know themselves as beingness temporarily through self-inquiry. Some of these people hold satsang, but they're not awake. Someone who's awake is awake 24 hours a day, not after sitting or self-inquiry. Someone who's awake doesn't self-inquire. They don't need to, they're awake. The only way that you can possibly tell if someone's awake is that continuous, unbroken presence that an enlightened person has around them. It's like an aura. It's like a beautiful aura. And so they could be doing anything. They could be in any kind of job. They could have any type of personality. It could be you and your personality. The only way that anyone is going to be able to tell that you're awake is by the presence. Oh, unless, of course, you tell them, but that doesn't mean anything. It is only the presence that indicates that someone is enlightened or not enlightened, nothing else. And really, if we look at what the Buddha is not a person. The Buddha is the presence. Awareness, aware of itself. Beingness, aware of itself. In the here and now. Thank you for satsang. Good to see you brave hearts here today.